more than my bitch. Got me mad shit, so I slap the bitch. I ain't even hopping the coupe, yeah, the bitch gon' start with the.
Back in 2021, I reviewed the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie that came out on Disney Plus, and I gotta say, it was pretty disappointing. And since then, we have gotten a sequel to the movie, Rodrick Rules, which is based on the second book in the series. And in December, we got Cabin Fever, which is based on the sixth book in the series, as, a Christmas special. Now, all of these movies come out in December, so I guess it makes sense. And since I did this video, I actually read Rodrick Rules and Cabin Fever for this video. So I'm pretty much prepared to talk about these movies. So let's start off with Rodrick Rules. I don't know how, I don't know why, but somehow they were able to make a movie that was worse than the first. And before getting into the stuff that makes this movie pretty bad, let me get into the positives first. So I like that Greg acts a lot more like himself than he did in the first movie. He's pretty much selfish, and he's not afraid to tell on Rodrick about the party because of the fake science project that Rodrick gave him, and he got a bad grade on it. So I like that. I like that Greg acts more like how he does in the books, unlike in the first movie where you feel bad for him. Another thing I liked from this movie is the relationship between Greg and Rodrick himself. I like the scene where Rodrick is teaching Greg how to play the drums for the first time, which is pretty heartwarming. And while, yeah, Rodrick isn't as likable or funny as Devin Boskin's Rodrick from the original live-action movies, but this version of Rodrick pretty much acts like how he does in the books. So, yeah. Alright, that's all the nice things I have to say about this movie. So, the pacing in this movie is pretty slow to the point where the movie gets boring, and I decided to do something that I've never done before. So, I stopped watching the movie, and I decided to watch the live-action version of Rodrick Rules, which is a much better movie in every way. And then when the movie finished, I realized I had to finish this movie just so I can make this video. To be fair, the movie does leave him some stuff from the book, like the family going on vacation while leaving Greg and Rodrick home alone, Rodrick throwing a party while the family goes on vacation, and, Rodrick and Greg being with their grandfather. And, the talent show's still happening at the end. But there are some changes in this movie where they don't really go anywhere. Like, for example, when the grandfather tells Greg that he's happy that him and Rodrick are, at least having, a good time being brothers together, while his sons don't get along that well anymore. And it's like, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just explained, and then the movie just forgets that it even talked about it. Oh, and just like the first movie, the animation is just as boring and bland and ugly, just like the first. And yeah, it's pretty boring, somehow even worse than the first. I would not recommend watching this one. Honestly, score-wise, I don't even care. Just a 3 out of 10. Don't even bother watching it. Moving on, let's talk about Cabin Fever, which of course came out in December, and is surprisingly decent, but it's not very accurate to the book. In fact, it's pretty much its own thing when I actually think about it. It tries to make the story different and stand out from the book. Let me explain. So Greg and Raleigh are the main reason why the town goes on lockdown, because they make a huge snowball hit a snowplow, and that causes Greg and his family to stay in lockdown while dealing with the cold weather. And while there are some aspects from the book that are in the movie, it's not really used. It feels more like references, and it doesn't really play a huge part of the movie. But there is this sweet ending where the owner of the snowplow finds out that it was actually Greg who caused the huge snowball, and out of the kindness of her heart, she doesn't actually tell on him. And she also tells him that she doesn't have enough money to really get her son a console that he's been wanting. So, since Greg knows this, he decides to actually give his console to her son. Which, honestly, is a pretty touching moment, especially with Greg and his family celebrating Christmas at the end. Honestly, this is a pretty decent movie. I mean, it's not accurate to the book at all, but this is definitely a step up from the last two movies. And we are finally done talking about the sequels. As of right now, we do not know if there's going to be an adaptation of The Last Straw, or they're going to continue on from Cabin Fever, or if there's even going to be another Wimpy Kid movie this year, which there probably will be. My thoughts are pretty mixed on this trilogy of movies. They're not terrible, but they're not great either. The thing is that this sucks, because animation should work very well with Diary of Wimpy Kid, but the cheap animation and the writing does not help. They are planning on making an adaptation of every book, so we'll see how that turns out. My expectations are not very high though. If you guys haven't seen it already, you guys should check out my video on the first Wimpy Kid movie. And if you guys have made it this far, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.